else into the room, but I'm going to go ahead and get things started. I want to welcome everybody tonight to our virtual program. My name is Natalie Fritz, and I am the Archivist and Director of Collections Outreach and Social Media for the Clark County Historical Society at the Heritage Center. And this is one of our Wednesday night virtual programs, and we had some conversations this last month or so of kind of transitioning these virtual programs that we've been doing the last 2 years into something kind of new. So if we have community conversations ones, which will be a Zoom program like this, like we've done with all of them, and we're going to have some of them as premieres of local history interviews that we have done in the past or have done recently. So that's kind of how we're going to transition that virtual option that we've been doing on Wednesday nights throughout all these months, last 2 years. So today's virtual program is a community conversation about the Stroh tournament. And this was a long-running softball tournament that ran from 1959 to 1999. And you'll hear tonight about how it ran under multiple other names that people may have known it as in town, but we know people have a lot of memories of coming and watching and spending the weekend and enjoying this tournament. And the way that this came about doing this program was that Kim Rinker, who had done another virtual program for us a couple of years ago about her local history Springfield book, had contacted about coming in to do research on the tournament for a presentation that they were going to be doing. And she came in with her dad, Don Rinker, and Danny Dewitt, who later took over the tournament, and they did some research, and they shared a lot of what they had already researched and everything they knew with us to help add to the story that we had in our own archives. And I said, you know, after you do your presentation, would you like to do something for us? So I'm grateful that they're here tonight. And I'm gonna go to our next slide. So as with all of our Zoom programs, we record this, and then this is something that's available later on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. So anyone can find this later. So these stories and things that we share are help preserve for the sake of local history and to be able to maybe answer people's questions in the future or help, you know, people bring back old memories. We monitor the chat. So if you have anything that you want to share or add and you want to put in the chat, you can do that. You can also mute and unmute yourself if you want to jump in later. We've got some pictures that we'll be going through. So if you see yourself in them or somebody you know and you want to add that in, you can unmute yourself to add to that. But we're going to start off with Don and Kim are going to start the timeline to kind of tell us how the tournament started. And then we're going to follow up with Danny Dewitt. And I'm going to share just a few pictures from the program that they originally came to do the research for. They were doing this for the Old Timers Day out at the Elks Club a few weeks ago in June. And they got to share some of the memorabilia and things from the tournament and share some stories. So we've got a few pictures of that here that I'll share before we get into the details of the history. Some great pictures of you guys with one of the tournament trophies there. And I wasn't sure who the other person was in this picture yet that was with you for that presentation. See Danny and Don here.
And that is Mike, the guy who took it over after Danny. Correct, okay. Danny?
Yes, Mike Bartee.
Mike Bartee, yes.
And then close-ups of the trophy, the Stroh's one.
I believe those were made at Meek Sporting Goods. Alice Swisshelm made those trophies.
Correct.
You know.
And she was a softball player herself, wasn't she?
Yes. Yes, she was.
So are those?
She was. Sorry, I was going to say she was fairly well known in Springfield and did a lot of the lettering, right, Dad, for Meek's, the embroidery.
And she measured a lot of bowling balls for people.
I will say this, that trophy, I didn't get to say the day of the presentation at the Elks, but that trophy's from 1987. And the reason I still had that one is because that's the highest finishing team I ever had in the Strohs. We finished second that year. and 87 to Star Path out of Kentucky. And that I was able to keep that trophy over the years. So that one I'm not giving up.
It's a great trophy. Are those actual beer cans that were used to
Yeah.
make those? And then this is some of the merchandise and things that you guys had on display and some programs. We've got some more pictures of this later, but I figured that this is a good slide to leave it on while you guys go ahead. Kim and Don, if you want to go into the story behind the tournament, I'll go ahead and mute myself and you guys can just go ahead and go.
Okay, Dad, do you want me to give kind of an outline and
Yes,
you can
let's do that.
interject?
Yeah,
Okay, so just to let everybody know, prior to 1960, there was no class structure for any kind of softball within Springfield. There were local teams, but there weren't any weekend tournaments and there wasn't anything formal that was put together. So in 1959, my father and Jim Acton, they wanted to set up a local tournament. So they decided to do so, and they went about sending out invitations to some of the better teams in the Southwest Ohio region. And the first team, I believe, Dad, it was called Sunbeam,
yeah.
right?
Right.
For Sunbeam Bread Company, which was local.
No.
Oh, it wasn't? I'm sorry.
No, there was a restaurant called Sunbeam up on High Street on the
Okay.
corner. And he sponsored us. They only had about 12 seats in there, but he sponsored our softball team. That's where we started. And Sunbeam Bread decided they would take it over after that.
Okay.
Then it went into the Strohs and Fisher
Okay.
as it got bigger. Yes.
And then after it was Sunbeam, it became Hudipole. Is that correct? Because of Bobby Fischer?
It did. Yeah. We were under Hudipole at one time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, and then the first tournament in 1960, it was held at the Sportsman's Club. And that was before the Sportsman's Club became a trap shooting spot. And 8 teams showed up and you had a lot of success, right?
Yes, we did. Sure did. It was nice. And that started things, balls rolling, and it just grew from there as we went along. We picked 8 teams: Urbana, Beaver Creek, Troy, and I don't remember the rest of them.
But it became and also what became a tradition during this time, there was a post-tournament party that the host team, which would have been your team, I mean Springfield, put on for the participating clubs. And Bobby Fischer, who owned the local distributing company, he donated a couple kegs of Hudipole beer for that first occasion, and it became kind of a tradition then. And it quickly became a success, and they had teams coming from Cincinnati, Toledo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Kentucky. And in 1961, they had 15 teams that participated, and the tournament was moved to Lagunda Fields. And at the time, all of the teams that came were teams that were east of the Mississippi. And the following year in 1962, Bobby Fischer Sr. Switched distributorships, and then the tournament became officially known as the Stroh's Tournament that year. And like Dad said, that it became so well known at the time that, it's so popular among the softball people that people started calling in December and January in order to get a spot in the tournament, which there were 21 places for teams. And who they invited, they were only state champions, state runner-ups, and national champions were invited as well. And that Stroh's tournament that Dad and Mr. Acton, known as Peachhead to people, it became the blueprint for how softball tournaments were organized throughout the United States because of the success of it. They started on a Friday afternoon and wrapped up by Sunday, so that the guys who drove in from other states could get on the road and get home so they could be at work on Monday. And they traditionally would play 2 games on Friday night at Lagunda and 3 at Municipal Stadium, and started playing at 9 a.m. in the morning, and they didn't finish until very late at night on the weekends.
At that time, we did not have a pro baseball team there in Springfield, so we were allowed to use Municipal Stadium. And because of the short bases, we had to take the pitcher's mound off, and we hit from the pitcher's mound after we took it off the field, and then the pitcher mound became
Became home.
almost a second base.
Well, and maybe people don't, I mean, I think a lot of softball people understand, but you know, a softball field, there's only 60 feet between the bases, unlike in regulation baseball where there's 90 feet in between. So, you know, it became quite a popular thing and a lot of work for the local people.
We had to remove the pitcher's mound because you know, they're built up. They're built up about 1.25 feet to get, you know, for the baseball pitcher. Well, we were using that, and we did not have a pro team at that time. A lot of people didn't want us to do that, but the person running, the recreation director, thought at that time that would be a great thing to have that in here. And it was a lot of work to take it off and a lot more work to put it back on.
And the baseball teams at the time, they played on Thursday night. So they had to go out, the guys had to go in and take the pitcher's mound out after they played Thursday night. So they'd have it ready. So they'd have the field ready for the Friday night softball games. And then they had to put it back in place after the teams were done on Sunday because the baseball teams played on Monday night. So it was kind of a big undertaking, but you know, the city was behind them, and eventually the Stroh's tournament became so popular that teams came in from all over the country and as far away as from Texas. And one year a team flew in from California, and they were so late at the time getting to the Dayton airport that they didn't have time to change and just wore their uniforms right on the plane. So I don't know if everybody wants to hear the winners, but the first year the winners were in 1960. The winners were the Miami Moose of Dayton. The second year was Gatliff Auto Sales of Newport, Kentucky. Third year winners were Carlisle Construction of Newport, Kentucky. Fourth year was the Eastside Sporting Goods of Detroit, Michigan. And then Tom Sweeney Chevrolet of Cincinnati in 64. Scott Lippert Buick of Cincinnati in 65. Michael's Lounge of Detroit, Michigan won in 66. Williams Trucking of Hamilton, 67. And then from 68 through 73, Little Caesars of Southgate, Michigan won every single year. And my dad had ran the tournament from 1960 through 73. And then he turned it over to Danny Dewitt for the 1974 season. So Danny, you can take it from there.
Okay. Well, jump in there, Kim. If you think I'm, if Don, if you think I'm missing anything along this, I'll try to build happen for the next 22 years there. First of all, I want to say I was 22 years old when Don approached me about, you know, continuing the tournament. At the time he was getting guys from all over the place, and his team was just got to a point where he kind of was wanting to cut back. And like I said, that was 1974. So when he gave it to me, and like I said, I was 22 years old. So I kept it for the next 22 years until 1996. Some of the events that happened that Don kind of hit on there is, as I go down my list here, a lot of people was always amazed. The one year we seemed like it always rained the first weekend of June. It just, you know, we never changed the date. Don always wanted it the weekend after Memorial Day. And so I wanted to stay traditional to that. And that's how the teams knew every year from coming all over the country that June 1st go to Springfield. So one of the things that always seemed to happen too was that with the rain situation is a couple of things we did was 2 years we flew in helicopters. A lot of people remember Laguna 1 that we flew in helicopters trying to dry the fields because, you know, I felt just like Don did. We felt obligated with these teams coming from all over. No matter what the weather did, we needed to play. So we brought in helicopters, you know, that one year. And then the same situation happened with the rain, you know, because the people would start setting up on, that was one of the things about the tournament. people would start setting up on Tuesday, Wednesday night before the event even started. They'd be 3 and 4 rows deep in the outfield with scaffolding, bed trucks. It became a really event where we was drawing anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 people every tournament. We were one of the first tournaments. Don started it, and we carried on the tradition when he brought in the organ player. We did a lot of things like professional baseball was doing. We brought in play-by-play announcers like they have, like Marty Brenneman. We had a guy named Ray Malfi out of New York, and he traveled all over the country just doing softball games and being the announcer. So, we was always pretty proud about that. And then we followed up to him with Dave Williams. And then we've always had good announcers. To give you an example of what was going on in '86, a daily pass was $3, a weekend pass was $7. So that was in 1986. So for $7 weekend, you could come and spend 3 days watching the best softball in the country. And that was always gave me the drive to try to continue with what we did. And one of the things we were very honored with was with the Springfield Babe Ruth by Don setting up using the city rec department and using Municipal Stadium, we were able to support Babe Ruth baseball. There was a gentleman here in town named Dayton Williams that Don had introduced me to, and we just continued on supporting Babe Ruth baseball. We brought in Springfield JCs who took care of the gates, Little League organizations who took care of parking, foul balls, and it was a complete event where you couldn't go without lots and lots of help. And I always I was fortunate enough that a lot of people wanted to join in. But one year we went through 27 dozen softballs. These balls were it was like being at Riverfront or Great American, and you fouled off. It's brand new, it's gone. We never got any of our balls back, and Don used to drive Don nuts, but I mean, there's no way we could get them back. But the big thing that happened though, when Don gave it to me in '74, there was different associations, and it was called ASA then. And that's all there was. There was no USSSA, there was no ISL, there was no other organizations. So in order to get the teams, in '75, I changed the tournament to USSSA, and that was the start of USSSA softball in our area, as well as Urbana, Dayton, Fairborn. Everyone then went to USSSA. But another thing that we always was proud of the fact that we booked every motel in Dayton, on this side of Dayton, Fairborn, Urbana. Everything was booked. I mean, it's just the chamber, was really always behind us 100%. The entry fees were reasonable, but back then you figure a $350 entry fee was a pretty steep challenge. But the thing we always did too is some of the people remember Davie Moore Park. But Davie Moore, when Don had so many limited teams, well, when I got it in '74 and started going on, we were able to pick up an annex, which enabled me to have more teams to play. So I was up around 26 to 30 teams, but teams still wanted in. So I come up with the idea using Davie Moore about a couple weeks before and calling it the pre-Stroh's tournament. So that means, and here I never thought this would happen. Teams started coming in from Cincinnati, Columbus, and all 2 weeks before the Stroh's just to play at Davie Moore Park, so they could be eligible to try to get into the Stroh's tournament. But these are all the things that it was overwhelming, really. And like I said, we were fortunate enough as a team in 1987 to finish second. That was our highest finishing team. And that was against Star Pass Systems, who had Doug Flynn and several players that played Major League Baseball. And then in '92, we was playing Pace Worth out of New York and was able to finish fourth. So out of my 22 years, the team that I had, we always competed in this tournament. We were always the host team, just like Don was when he had the Stroh's team. And we were able to do that. But I guess the biggest thing I come out of the tournament for me was, and I'm very appreciative of Don for giving me the opportunity to continue on the tradition. And like I said, I went to '96, and in the 4 years at the end to '99, Mike Barty took it over, and it kind of changed. It's changed sponsorships at that time, and he finished out the last 4 years. But I guess the biggest thing that happens for me, and what I guess I told the people at the Elks that day is, I gained lifelong friends from this tournament, and I met a lot of outstanding athletes during this time. It was one of the best softball tournaments in the country, and I'm very happy and proud to be part of this history. So if anybody would like to know anything more, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that people didn't understand. We had to have a lot of help and a lot of people's volunteers. So that's about my 22 years there. And like I said, the last 4 years it changed over to Budweiser sponsorship, and that's when Mike Barty finished it out. So that's about what I got right there. Anything you want to add, Don?
Yeah, Danny, let's go back a little bit to how we got the fields at Davy Moore. Who did it?
Well, yeah,
And,
I think you told me that you had you built those fields, right?
Yes, they did not have 4 fields that day. They didn't have any because it was inside of the old racetrack at the fairgrounds.
Oh, okay.
And when we bid on the national tournament, we told them we had 7 ballparks. We only had 3. So how are we going to get 3? Well, there was a coach out at Northeastern by the name of Bill Dunlap who had built the Frigidaire fields down in Dayton, and he came up and said he could do it. We want to know if he could do it, and he said yes, he would. So, and after we won the bid from the national group, we said, what are we going to do for the other 4 fields? So we only had 3. So we put that in Bill's hands, and he laid it all out. Over at Davy Moore, where it was, and we put 4 fields at Davy Moore. Well, we had one little problem about that was the fences had to be 250 feet at that time, which is nothing today.
275.
Well, all of them had to be 250 feet to make them legal. Well, we got them there, and we were short a few feet, and so Peachhead said, "We don't care, just hang 2 signs on that say 250." And that's what we did, and nobody said a word about it. So it worked very well, and that's how Davy Moore became a softball field for the next number of years, along with Little League parks and sort of thing like that.
Well, I was wondering how it really did come around, but it was very beneficial in my era then, because it gave me 4 more fields, and that's when I implemented the pre-Strohs. But a couple of things I did miss that the audience might want to know is, and I'm sure they did know this, but the tradition of the Strohs tournament was the winning team had to run a lap around the whole outfield, and the people on the scaffoldings and the car, they's up on the fences, and the whole team would run around and throw their whole hats, and that became a tradition. So every year those coaches would come to me and say, "Man, do we have to throw our hats?" I go, "Oh yeah. If you're playing in a tournament and you win, you're giving up your hats. You can always buy new hats." So, and the other thing I did miss too is we had fireworks displays 3 times during those years, and we was drawing over anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 people for those weekends. But fireworks displays became a very nice highlight of one of the things that happened too that people didn't know about. But it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, remember how the International parked that big flatbed truck behind the field, in right field, and left it there the whole time. Yeah. But
Questions, Natalie?
Well, I figured I'd go through some of the rest of the slides and see if there's any, like, we've got some more pictures of, these are some of the tournament programs, Danny, that you had shared
Right.
with me. And I know that this last one here, the 99 one, one of our volunteers actually came in and donated one today.
Awesome.
She had a couple
there.
of the end years of that. So we now have one for the archives, but you see, we got 90 and 91 when Coors was a sponsor, and then
Right.
99 it's Bud Light at that point.
you know,
and then
after Danny, after we had that tournament, that was the biggest tournament around anywhere. Well, because we only limited to the amount of teams that could be there. And we did that so that they could get out of Springfield and get away home, because most of them had to go to work.
Right.
Next day. And they left, some of them left with their uniforms on so they could catch well, the year the team was here from California, they left the ballpark and they took them to the airport. They had to leave by 5:30 or something. And they wore their uniforms when they left.
So I have a question about the makeup of the teams. So these were company sponsored teams for the most part, right? And from the different states that they were coming from. What was the age range of the players?
You want that? Go ahead.
They could be at any age at that time. And there was no tournaments around, and it was hard to get in this tournament because we held them to a certain amount. We only let I think it was 23 of them in, because as the schedule was made up, it was made so that the tournament was to end around 3 or 4 o'clock, so they could get them to the airports or in their cars on their way home. You know, it's kind of hard to get from Springfield, Ohio to someplace in California for the next morning without leaving that night.
I can give you an idea, Natalie, as far as my teams go, because the whole time when I had this, I had a softball team. I've had a softball team with great sponsors, and I was very fortunate when I was 22 years old. But the way I did it is, and what I was very proud of, is our guys were all local guys. I mean, you ask about the age, we go from 21 up to 40. It's surprising, but I had some old guys that was kind of out of the game. I'd bring them back in with our young guys, and they'd revive their careers. But like I said, a second and fourth in this tournament with local guys. I very seldom had players from out of town. A few, Larry Gerard from London, but Mike Apland, John Brenner, Henry Macbeth from Xenia, a lot of names of players. But I was just proud of the fact that we were able to compete, because these teams, like Don's saying, you know, they had nowhere to go. And so what they would do is get a major sponsor, and it became a part where they were paying their players to pay. You know, they'd come in here and get 15 motel rooms, and the players were paying nothing. You know, and that's like, you know, Don used to have to send cars to the airport to get them from the airport to Springfield. So that, as far as age, your question there is I think we started out at 22, 24 years old and went all the way to 40.
We've got some pictures of different uniforms. I imagine these are from various years. Don, are these from your collection?
Yes, they are. Yeah, yes, they are. Those were ours. We still have them, as you can see.
We've got some Hootapole hats here from
yes.
the earlier years.
Yes.
And I can see, so they were made by Meek's, distributed by Meek's.
No, that's
I see
the label on the
label
shirt.
in the shirt. Yeah.
That's a label on the shirt. We would have paint teams start calling us in January to get in the tournament. This was the biggest tournament going anywhere around the country, and they would start knowing in that they had to be a state champion or a state runner-up or a national champion to get in, and they would start coming in, and we would end up with 40 or 50 teams that we could not take, because we only had, there again, time for them to play the game, get ready, and get out of town, because most of them had to go to work on Monday morning. Yeah. But we had certain teams that call in and say, I'll play Friday night, I'll play Friday morning, early Saturday morning. And they had to be here. And that's how we were able to get some of the better teams in the country, because they were there. They wanted to come. There was nothing really like this tournament at that time in the 70s.
Some more early ones here.
Yeah,
So this may be a stupid question on my part. These uniforms were just for the local team, right?
Mhm.
well, that was a local team who originally started the tournament. And when they got in a little bigger, they wanted to take Hudepohl off and put Stroh's on because they like the Stroh's sponsor more than that. Same team, different shirt.
Well, here's a great picture. This is one that ran in the paper today for today's program. I think this one was from 1970. You guys had
Yeah.
told me. And can you tell us who's in this picture here?
Yes. Bob Fisher's on the left. I'm in the middle, and Charlie Younger, who had coached the Coca-Cola baseball team from around here for many, many years. Yeah. We also had a huge party out at the fairgrounds. We rented the fairgrounds and shut the tournament down at like 8 o'clock at night on Friday night or Saturday night. Well, I don't remember, Friday night, and we had a party for everybody at the fairgrounds in a women's building. Went over real big. But we would get calls from everybody, all the teams around that were good, from Michigan, Minnesota, St. Louis, Chicago, Florida, North Carolina. Those people wanted in the tournament, and they knew they had to call early and also be a state champion or a former world champion, national champion.
So could people call and hold their spot, and then if they earned it by meeting the requirement, then they would get to take it? I mean, but did you have people hold them in advance then saying you'd have
the only one that we took in advance that we knew would be state champions and regional champions. We didn't have, we only took, I think it was 24 teams, so that we could finish on time to get those teams out of town Sunday night if they were in the winners. And as the winners, you would only have 2. So they would go.
I said the next picture here. I'm wondering if you could tell us more about this bus here.
I can tell you a lot about that. We had a gentleman in out around Vandalia who had a garage, and we thought we'd like to find an old bus. He said, I know where there's an old bus sitting in a farm field out west of Vandalia. So, and it's been there for years. So he decided he was going to go out there and get it, which he did. Said, I can get that bus out. Well, we told Mr. Fisher that we had a bus to take the team in if they wanted to go. So he took that, dug it out, sent it around, and we had it painted, as you can see it pretty well. Also in that bus were about four tables with seats like a booth. We had a 12-case beer cooler, that we put in there. We had hot plates and stuff in there. And in the back where you see the windows painted, that's where we kept our beer. And we used to take that down to Dayton where they played at the city park, where you were not allowed to have beer, and they would roll that in there every Tuesday or Thursday night. Two guys that were in charge of that bus, and they would sell the beer out of the back to buy money, to get money so we could travel in it on the weekends. That's but that bus was known around a lot of times in Indiana, Northern Ohio, Kentucky as the Big Red Machine. That's how it was done. Let's see.
I've got some team photos from throughout the years.
Yeah, that was my team, our team. That's our winning photo for Louisville. And there's a lot of guys in that front. Well, Kim sitting right here is sitting down between the two
The trophy.
trophies, right between the two trophies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to change our name from the restaurant we had to the Stroh's Kim, but we originally was Hootapole, and the Stroh's put the money in to change it from Hootapole to Stroh's.
There was a question, Don, about what happened to the bus.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. We would take it to Indiana. We went up to Akron, and the people would say, "Here comes that Stroh's bus." And you could see them after a while start walking out to get their beer off the truck, because they were usually on city property, which you weren't supposed to do that. But they let it go. Yeah.
Who's number 12?
Someone asked if that's Jerry Hockman.
That is Jerry Hockman.
Yeah.
That is Jerry Hockman, exactly.
I was wondering if there's anybody that's in the call right now that played on any of these teams. I think I just spotted Don here. Is that you up there?
That's him.
That's you? Yeah.
That's me. Yeah.
My dad played on the team.
Yeah. Do you know what years?
Yeah, that's him, number 14, Jim Zink.
Oh, there you
Jimmy
go.
Zink.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi,
well,
Mr.
Jimmy was
Rinker.
one- Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well.
Linda Wells told me about this today, so I made sure to get on.
Well, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's really
Jimmy-
cool seeing all these memories.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy was a great player and a great person.
Yeah, I was at a lot of those tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, your dad was really nice. I remember him well. He was. a
Yeah, I
good guy.
remember yours too.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he one time played with a team that went to Hawaii.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That'd be a good tournament to go to.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Patty said that Jerry Hockman was the athletic director at Shawnee in the 70s when she was there.
That's correct. That's correct.
And we've got
Yeah.
another one here. Not sure what year this is, but maybe you guys can figure it out.
This
Oh, Don, there you are again.
Yeah,
On
this
the
is
end.
where we won at Parma with a number of the same people.
Yep.
Number the same. We won that in Parma. That was the Cleveland. Parma was Cleveland.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Jim Zink.
Yeah, Jimmy Zink is the
Is
second one in
From
from
the
the
right.
right side on the first row.
Yeah, and
Down
my
here.
brother was the bat boy.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
We had that, sure did. That's when we changed from Hootapole to Stroh's.
Yep.
it's a cool picture.
Okay. Here's another one.
Uh,
There you are again, Don.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all there.
Hey, Don, I was wondering, I didn't realize that Mike Applin, right in the middle, fourth one
Yeah.
in, right?
Yes,
Zap, we called him Zap.
Zap, yeah,
Yeah, and you got him from Yellow Springs, right?
yes.
Yeah,
was-
because he ended up his career playing with me about the last 10 years.
Yeah, he could hit him a few ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mr. Zink is second from left in the back row, I believe, isn't he,
Yep, that's
Deborah?
him.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, that's him right there.
cute.
Here's a Hootapole one.
There's
Yeah,
Dad.
yeah,
There
that's
he
the one
is.
we had when we started with it, and
Right.
that's my son on the left in the first
Yeah.
row. Right
There.
there,
Mhm.
Yeah,
that's in the first row. That's when we changed.
That's before you changed.
Yeah, that's before we changed, and they want us to go to Stroh's because they just wanted us from Stroh's.
that's that zipper jersey that you had. We had back in one of the earlier pictures that
It
that
is,
had
yeah.
a
it's the
zipper
same-
on it. Yeah.
It's the same jersey.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
those jerseys were made from a company called the General Athletic in Greenville, Ohio. And they're also where we got the shorts, and also that you can't see there, we had white shoes made.
Oh,
It's tight. Yeah, I called the manufacturer and said, "Can you make white baseball spikes?" And they said yes. And we took everybody's size. They were made in Philadelphia, and of white. Everybody thought we were wearing tennis shoes. Well, they weren't. And they were all leather, metal spikes, and they sold for $10.45.
wow.
That wouldn't buy the shoestrings hardly today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Here's another one. Not all players here. It's like
No.
we've got some wives in this
We
one.
got a lot of them. Yeah, that is at the party that we had at the fairgrounds one night. A lot of those fellas are not there anymore. Yeah,
Don, who's in the second row on the very end, on the right?
On the right, that's Jimmy Loft.
Jimmy Love.
Right,
And
There.
that's,
thought.
and that's Gary, right?
Gary.
Gary is right behind him.
right,
Dick Cheney's wife.
okay.
Uh,
Thought that was Jimmy.
Bill Davis, Dave Stuckey, Bob Gee, Clint Boisel, David, and I know him well. The black guy was from Columbus, and Gary Wade, and the guy in the middle, kneeling down, was a Marine, and he was at EWO or somebody over there, and he was pretty good. He was out of right pat, and that's his wife to the left, to the right of the left of it.
To the right.
That's a good picture.
Yeah.
Dave
I saw-
Stanley was the guy in the back. Yeah, the guy up there with the white shirt on is Dave Stanley from London.
The African-American guy.
Yeah, he was an all Ohio football player. Let's see, that's all this.
I say, and you gave us, we scanned all of these pictures, so we have copies in the archives now that other people can see too. And some of these do have, I know, Don, I sat down with you and you sat down with Kim and we filled in some of the names on these, and some of them had names written on the back too, so.
Yeah, they're on the back of
that'll-
those. Yeah, we
Yeah.
put some of them on. Them.
Yeah. And this is the winners list, all the winners list. You see all those Little Caesars years. I think that's so funny.
Yeah, I think
Little
too.
Caesars won so many in a row.
1, 2. I think they run it 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
Six times in a row.
And there
They all-
quite
they all-
several Ohio teams won. Looks like. So,
Yep.
Steele was from Grafton, Ohio.
Cincinnati,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. Yeah, kind of.
and then you've got the list here that tells you the winner, the MVPs, the batting leaders, all, so you thank you, Danny, for giving us copies of all of these stats too, that we have in the folder now for the tournament. So we've got
What was
few
funny,
pages.
what was funny about all the MVPs in these tournaments, I thought, is the
Oh,
fans.
we didn't talk about that. We didn't
Well,
talk.
what was funny, I thought, was the fans would get behind, like whatever, they knew what players were good. They'd come in, and when that player, you could almost tell from the opening game who the other team's best player was. And when the fans found out, they followed this guy just like he was a major leaguer, man. I mean, they were, every time he'd bat, Don will tell you, they all had nicknames, and there were some of them that could really hit the ball. But as far as MVPs, it's kind of neat to look at that list, and you'll look on there and put, most of the people will recognize the MVPs just from the fact that they were always the other team's, best player and the home run hitter, basically.
But the biggest help was for the city to let us use the field.
Yeah.
But we had to take that off, do it. And we had school teachers who were sitting down the third baseline to drag the field with new tractors that somebody gave us at that time to use. I forget who it was. They might have been the international tractor. Was there one, Danny?
Yeah, there was. They were all, Ed McGinnis, remember, recruited him.
So how did you gather all of the needed volunteers for this? I mean, was there a call put out? Do you have multiple meetings? How did you get all the people you needed?
We had mostly high school coaches, baseball coaches who just wanted to be there and thought that would be a way to have a good seat. So they didn't have a seat. They sat on the tractors waiting on the innings to open up so that they could drag the fields and get the field ready to go every time.
The volunteers were always people that loved the game, and they loved the atmosphere, because it was the closest thing you could get on a not to be playing Major League Baseball. That was the closest thing you could get to it. But it was pretty awesome how the people stepped up, and we had probably 50 volunteers about every tournament.
The picture you got now is Leo DeRocher and Jim McKay on the end. They were with ABC. That, as far as I know, was the first televised slow pitch softball tournament at that time. Peachhead was able to get them he just called them, and they said, yeah, they'd never done that. So they sent us two pretty good people. So that's them right there.
And that should be clarified. That was for the Amateur Softball Association National Slow Pitch Softball Tournament of 1964.
Yeah.
It was different than the Stroh's tournament. It was a national tournament, and that's a little bit of a different story. But it's
that was televised on Wide World of Sports then that year.
Yes,
the national tournament.
Yeah,
but it was here. It came to town.
Yeah, it was in Springfield. It was not
part of
the
that.
Stroh's tournament. It was something completely different, but it was something that Jim Peachhead Acton, the guy second from the right, and that Dad put together along with a guy named Art Geith, who was an insurance salesman in town. So, and Peachhead owned, or Jim Acton, he owned O'Brien's Tavern, that many people may remember. So when this tournament came about, that's a completely different tournament that we can talk about if we're done talking about the Stroh's tournament.
I think we're at the end of the pictures we have that are Stroh's related. This is the one, Don, that you were talking about, that Davy Moore Field, where they built 4 more fields over there, was for this tournament.
Oh, well, yes. When we bid on having this national tournament, we told them we had 7 fields. Well, we didn't. We had 3 down at Lagunda and none at Davy Moore, where they are. So we had the fellow by the name of Bill Dunlap, who said he built the stadium, the separate fields down in Dayton, and could he do it? And he said yes. Well, we took what was inside of the old county horse race track and we put that complex right inside of there. And most all of you know what Davy Moore looks like. And we put them all together, and that's where we had the short fences that they didn't work too well. But nobody said anything, and we had them back to back, and it just went great. They never had a complex just exactly like that. And yeah, Bill Dunlap was the shop teacher out at Northeastern. And he's the one that had put the one in Dayton, and he said he would do it. So, that's how that was done. You'll notice the framework in behind the picture between Leo DeRocher and Peachhead. That was where they took the pictures for. That's a thing they had to climb up on the top of it to look over the things and get some pictures in that. That was directly behind home plate, and it was in a way it took a lot of, well, you had to look through that cage like it is to see the field, but it wasn't too bad. So
maybe we should talk a little bit about how that tournament came to be. I mean, I can either talk about it just in a nutshell.
Yeah.
If you want, it was Peachhead and my dad and Art Geith. They decided that they wanted to try to host the National Amateur Softball Association of America National Slow Pitch Tournament. So the year before, which was 1963, they got together, and each city that participated in the ASA Open softball tournaments had a representative that would go to Chicago and try to pitch so that they could host the tournament in their city the following year. So the head of the ASA in Cleveland and the head of the ASA in Toledo, they didn't like each other. So the Cleveland rep of the ASA told Peachhead, he said, put a host bid in for Springfield and we'll get the other reps to back you up. So he knew that Toledo was going to bid for the 1964 games, and he didn't want them to get the tournament. So he told Peachhead to bid so that the Springfield would get the tournament. So those three guys, so Peachhead, my dad, and Art all went to Chicago. They held the meetings at the Drake Hotel in the fall, and they let Peachhead go in and pitch the cause to the ASA board and the other representatives. And so Acton went in and made the presentation and offered them $3,000 that Bobby Fischer had given to him because they had to put up a little bit of money to get the bid. And Acton went in, made the bid, and when he came out, and he told him that Springfield had 7 softball fields when they really only had 3 at the time, and that the city had plenty of rooms and hotels to accommodate 50 teams that would get the tournament. So the ASA voted, their membership, their board of directors voted to give Springfield the national tournament for 1964. And when Acton came out of the meeting, what did he tell you? He
said, well, we got the bid. Now, what are we going to do with it?
So the city of Springfield agreed to help fund the tournament for construction of those 4 ball fields, and also to help revamp Municipal Stadium. And, Lagunda already had 2 fields, and Municipal was the 3rd. So the only thing they had to do was build those 4, as Dad talked about. And they started getting ready for things in January of 64. And by the end of August, the fields were ready and set up and ready to go for the tournament, which was held the first weekend in September. And those fields had to have a length, like Dad said, of 275 feet, but they were only 265. So Acton, he just told Dad, put up signs that say 275 and nobody will know the difference. And they didn't. I'm trying to think. They had the participating states were from all over the place: Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, New York, Michigan, North Carolina, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Illinois, Louisiana, Georgia, New Jersey.
Too many, can only had 24.
Well, that's what I'm saying, which ones. Anyway, Rhode Island, Washington, Florida, Oklahoma, state of Washington, Maine, Arkansas, Indiana, Delaware, Alabama, and Connecticut.
Now, a funny story about this.
Oh, you can tell.
We had a call from a team in Bremerton, Washington, the week before the tournament was to start. And they said that they had just won the Washington state tournament, and they wanted to come to the tournament. Well, we took them. They were the last one to get in, and they drove in from Bremerton, Washington. They started on Monday to get there by Friday, and we put them up at the Silver Swan Inn. That's the only place we had left on Route 40. And if you remember that, they had little
Cabins.
cottages all the way around, and they thought they were in heaven. And that was when they got there. But they did drive all that way. They had a great time. They were not very good, but they did win a game, I think. So that's the way that went. And after that, we got calls every January and February to come to the Stroh term, because they knew that we had limited amount of people, so we could get them in and out of there at time. That's how that happened. And they would call in and early, whether they made them or not. And we turned down a lot of them. Had to turn down a lot of them.
And the people that won that national tournament was the Skip Hogan Athletic Club of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the runner-ups were Gatliff Auto Sales of Newport, Kentucky. If anybody was interested in that. And the next year, the tournament was taken to Sunnyvale, California. And Springfield actually was the smallest town ever to host a national slow pitch tournament.
That's a great feat for Springfield.
It is.
I just wanted to share this one. Virginia, if she's still on the call, she's the one who brought in my volunteer who brought in the programs today, and she was wearing a Stroh's shirt.
Good.
That she said her and her husband John would wear when they would go watch the tournament. So
that's great. That's great.
Is that Virginia Warren?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I see she's on. Maybe she could add something. That's really a cute picture.
Yeah. Virginia, did you guys go to the tournament a lot? Are you still on here?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, well, thank you for sharing the programs with us and your shirt. And I thought I threw in a few pictures just of Meeks in general, because I thought, Don, you could maybe share a little bit. I was curious. I had my own questions about like what kind of work did Meeks have to do for this, as far as providing supplying uniforms and stuff for the teams in the tournament locally, a little bit, but I thought I would share some of our just general Meeks sporting goods pictures that we have.
Oh, that's good. That's thanks. Alice made all the trophies that we had down there.
Alice Swisshelm?
Yep, Alice
You made
Swisshelm. Now, do you have any other questions? Anyone else have any questions that we could answer or try to answer?
Well, I'll go through these ones real quick. The Meeks one. This is the original Meeks up at the top here. It used to be on East Main Street before they moved, and then they were on Limestone, and then the one that everybody knows was. So this is the one on Limestone here, which is now where the drive-through for Park or Security Bank is, and then this picture over here shows it where most people know it on North Fountain. And then there we had some other pictures. I know that when the Bada Bing pizza place first opened in Meeks, they had your old sign hanging in the back lit. This was my picture that I took when we were there eating pizza one time. I was like, oh, it's the old Meek sign. And then these are some of the ads from various publications in town showing interior of Meek's on Fountain. It was there for a very long time, right, Don?
Yes, ma'am. I was there for a very long time.
That's a great photo right there with the caribou head on the left side and just all the racks of
Mhm.
baseball bats, and on the right side was where all the ammo, a lot of the ammo was.
That's
Yeah.
where they had the other one.
Mhm.
That's before we went through the wall.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You expanded out, so you took up pretty much that whole side over there. I know that I moved to town and into the area in 2005, and we moved into Springfield in 2007, and it was still open when we first got into town, downtown.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions that maybe we
One more. You guys, the Meeks used to do Halloween costumes. I don't know if anybody knew that. This was in the 20s.
Yeah, that's before me.
You could go get, and then this was something that you guys had hanging
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
in the store for a long time.
Yeah, they would put, we'd get an extra one and go from there. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, so that's at the museum, so people can see, but lots of different local teams and stuff represented on there, and sporting events. That's all I have as far. So I'll stop share so we can bring the screen back up, and if anyone has any questions, or anything else that they want to share or talk about, or
Can you hear
your
me?
own.
Can
Yes.
you hear me, Natalie?
Yeah, I can.
I used to work at Mad River Supply, and then it became CED. And I did some of the purchasing work there. And one of the brands that we handled was Norton. And the salesman lived around Dayton, I don't know, Kettering or down that direction. And he had been searching all around Dayton for, I think it was a glove of some kind for his son. And one of the stores that he went to in Dayton told him to come to Meek's in Springfield, that they had a lot more there than a lot of these other companies did anywhere around. I thought that was pretty neat. Go to Meek's.
You, Virginia Warren?
Yes.
Yeah, I was married to John.
Yeah, this is Don. Yeah, I knew John well.
Yes. It was Alice Wishelm's sister-in-law for a while.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Thank you. Got anybody else there?
I can imagine. I know that the city of Springfield and the Chamber of Commerce would be absolutely beside themselves thrilled if we were able to pull off bringing back a tournament of that size again.
That would be great.
Well, I don't know if you could get it, and it's an awful lot of work. but we had all the teams. I don't know, well, I don't think, Danny, there's as many teams around the country as used to be that traveled like that, do you?
There's 6 major teams in the country, and that's the ones that travel the most, but they have AA now, and they have A. Those teams are all traveling pretty much, and they all have big dollar sponsors.
Yeah.
So there's not any sort of tournaments like this anymore. Will you get that mix?
Well, the Smoky Mountain Classic, matter of fact, this weekend is the Smoky Mountain Classic, it's going on 52 years, and it still exists. And outside of the World Tournament, there was 3 tournaments. It was the World Tournament, the Smoky Mountain, and the Strohs. That was the 3 tournaments, and we were fortunate enough to be one of them. But I didn't have to, believe me, I didn't have to go out looking for teams. They were calling me, like Don said, they started calling in January.
Is Smoky Mountain in Tennessee?
Yep, Maryville, Tennessee. We played in it almost 10 years in a row, and it's a classic. I always tried to pattern the Strohs tournament off of it a little bit because they got the major teams throughout the country.
Are there any sort of softball teams like that in town now at all that are doing?
All I can tell you, all I can tell you about as far as in town now, and I'm not sure, you'd have to check, but I know that Thursday night league used to be the biggest league in Springfield. And I mean, they would draw fans, and Don started, I know Don Stroh's, Pabst, Cedarville Market. It used to have Car Guard, Dean's Movers. These teams played on Thursday nights, and they would pack Lagunda one. But now you can go by Lagunda Field. Davie Moore has no softball now, just girls. And the Lagunda Field has leagues maybe 2 nights a week. There's probably, at one time we had 200 softball teams in Springfield. We probably have maybe 25 now. That just goes to show
Yeah, Danny, you couldn't get a practice time there.
No,
Every night, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to call for the city to just get the practice on the fields. But like the answer you, Natalie, is the game has really went down. There's probably only 3 teams in Springfield that are now traveling and playing at, they're not at the A level. They're playing, some of them are playing C and D, but Springfield doesn't have a rep anymore.
Well, I know that just in general, the kids baseball and all that has changed too. We don't have anything. They don't have like Babe Ruth League anymore.
No.
Locally. I know we were playing, I just completely forgot the name, out on, out off of Burnett Fields over there, kids baseball.
Off of Burner Road?
Yeah. Vernon Murphy.
Oh,
Yeah, so we were in
Oh,
it, you know,
yeah.
there's still a few different leagues in the area.
Yes.
But there's not.
Prosser Field starting back up. Northridge still has their Babe Ruth program.
Oh, they do have their Babe. Okay. And I know, yeah, there's one out by Innisfallen.
Yeah.
So there's some kids baseball options. And then, you know, the high school and everything. But yeah, it's, I used to live down the street from Lagunda Fields. Just until a few years ago, and I don't remember ever seeing it. Terribly busy out there.
It used to be, you couldn't get there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's things have changed, but there's still people around that love to play and love to watch. So glad to know that this tournament had such a big, you know, impact on the community and was here for so many years. So
Yeah,
thank
they
you
would
guys
call-
for.
We had teams call us January and February. We want in. We want in. You're only taking 25. Can only take them so they could get them in and out of town. That's well, we would. I had a team, and we would travel. They'd invite us to. We played in county stadium in Milwaukee, where the Braves played. They had three games going at the same time in that ballpark, and because they wanted to get down here, so they took us up there. So St. Louis and things like that like to move, and they were just hard to get a spot.
Wow. I want to thank.
It was a good run, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thank you guys for doing this, and you know, we have this recorded and everything, and sharing what you had from the tournament, because I know when you came in, all we had was, you know, one article to share with you. You guys gave us a lot more than we had previously had, and I'm sure there's other people out there that may have stuff that might get more things in the future, like more pictures and things like that. So we'll welcome those from anybody that has them. So, but thank you guys for doing this tonight. We really appreciate you guys sharing the story of the tournament and everything. We'll be doing.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. That Danny knows about it, and the way it goes, and it's just not around anymore, is it, Dan?
No, it's. I hate to say it, but it's kind of kind of went away.
Playing.
No.
You might find one or two that would be out of high school playing, but not many. Not many.
Thanks for bringing the Strohs to town all those years. I enjoyed very many of them behind the left field fence.
Well, and thank you guys all for coming out tonight to listen and share. We'll be doing another virtual program at the end of this month, July 29th, 27th. that Wednesday will be a Wren's history program. Right now, we have a temporary exhibit of Christmas in July at Wren's, and it's a recreated Christmas time window in our lobby, and it is a partnership with the Clark County Public Library with a history display that we have over in their lobby too about the history of Wren's, and we've got one in our lobby as well. So we'll be doing a virtual program on that with that has a really long history that goes back to the 1870s, and we've got some former employees that we got to sit down with and interview. So we invite people to come and share their memories from shopping at Wren's, whether it be downtown or out at the mall or any of the different buildings that Wren's was in or anything like that. So that'll be our next one on July 27th. So
Hey, Natalie,
Natalie.
yeah,
this is Rich Whalen.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for doing this tonight. We really enjoyed watching this, and I wanted to follow up with what you said and thank Don Rinker and Danny Dewitt for bringing all this entertainment to Springfield. And I know there had to be countless nights for many, many weeks and months on the telephone till midnight, putting something like this together. It is a Herculean task, and for you guys to bring to Springfield, we really appreciate it.
Well, Richie, thank you. But a lot of people wanted to help. Most of the coaches around town, we could call them and they wanted to be there. So they set on tractors, they drug the fields, they did things to keep us going. So that was fun. That's the way it was. But thanks, Rich.
Thank you,
You're
Rich.
Well, thank you guys. Hope you have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
We'll
Thank
see you
you,
next
Natalie.
time.
Thanks,
Bye.
Danny.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.